Sheriff Todd Baxter, employees of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. District Attorney Brian P. Green, employees of the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. Alex Renzi in New York State Supreme Court, Paul C. Metzer and James Farley Jr. in Penfield Town Court, Public Defender Julie Sianka. My name is Chris Chichester. This document here will arrive at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, Monroe County District Attorney's Office, New York State Supreme Court, Public Defender's Office, and the United States Department of Justice in the next 48 hours. It's dated today, July 27, 2026. This is who it's going to here. United States Postal Service. Sheriff Todd Baxter. District Attorney Brian P. Green. New York State Supreme Court Judge Alex Renzi. Michael D.G. Como, United States Attorney for the Western District of New York. Perry Duckles, the District Attorney, Deputy District Attorney. Michelle Crowley, Director of the Grand Jury. And I did not send it to $140,000 Public Defender Julie Sianka, but you'll eventually get it. You don't have any information that I'm demanding use the Freedom of Information Law Public Defender Julie Sianka. That's why I didn't receive it. But you do have the information, which is my prosecutor's silence, $140,000 Julie Sianka. So $140,000 Julie Sianka, who is it? Because you know who it is. And you're not only refusing to disclose to me information that you have in your possession, you're returning my envelopes to me, Julie Sianka, that I sent to you. United States Postal Service Registered Mail Return Receipt, Federal Express, United Parcel Service. What's wrong with you? You're the public defender. I'm telling you to disclose the names of my prosecutor's silence. And you're refusing insanely, which is why you must be removed as the $140,000 public defender. Because you, public defender Julie Sianka, are a de facto employee of the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. So, July 27th, 2026. I'm on here on July 27th, 2026, but I don't know if this is going to arrive tomorrow morning or tonight. Later tonight before midnight. This is real easy to understand, especially for you, Director of the Grand Jury, Michelle Crowley. Why didn't you call me to the Grand Jury? Why? You don't believe you have to answer. And when you believe you don't have to answer, you're excused by former District Attorney, Sandra Dorley, and you're going to be excused by the present District Attorney, Brian P. Green. Because it doesn't matter that you're a psychopath and freaking fanatic with that grand jury. And I have no idea how you formed this, how many there were, what the vote was, despite the fact I wrote that for 100 times, Michelle Crowley, including tonight. And you, Michelle Crowley, on this July 27th, when it arrives, because it's already been sent, you're going to refuse again. Because you're corrupt, that's why. And you're obsessed with power. I have no idea this grand jury is convened. And what you don't have to answer, District Attorney Sandra Dorley doesn't want to know anything from you about what Michael Houlihan said to you in private. Because there's a difference between what Michael Houlihan says to you and then how you decide to impanel the grand jury. And then what he says to you in the grand jury. I'm demanding a transcript, which I'm demanding again tonight. What did he say? Because there's only two people that knows what happened on my back porch in Penfield, New York. Me and Michael Houlihan. And Michael Houlihan's a lying, perjurer freak. And I'm telling the truth. Which I'm going to read again. Which you're unable to understand. Director of the Grand Jury, Michelle Crowley. Because you're a psychopath. That's why. Michelle Crowley. So, July 27th, 2026, today. Todd Baxter, Sheriff, 130 South Plymouth Avenue. Rochester, New York, 14614. Brian P. Green, District Attorney, 47 South 52nd Street, Rochester, New York, 1. Rochester, New York, 14614. 3 years ago, on July 27, 2023, I wrote a criminal complaint for perjury that described the fanaticism of 73-312 Michael C. Houlihan in the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. Quote, that 73312 Michael C. Houlihan of the Monmouth County Sheriff's Office walked onto private property, crossing a residence, 26 Sandstrom Drive in Penfield, New York, Christopher Chichester. That Houlihan ran at Chichester approximately 1 a.m. with $85,000 down Benedetto of the Sheriff's Office. That Chichester ran away from Houlihan and Benedetto unaware of the identities. That Chichester grabbed a hammer alongside the residence next to his bike, used to fix the bike's tire. That as Chichester placed his foot on the first 3 steps of the back porch, Houlihan grabbed his arm. The hammer in Chichester's hand is forced upward. And Chichester ran across his back porch through his sliding glass door, and Chichester never stopped running. It is impossible to swing the hammer at 73312 Michael Houlihan. End quote. What is the status of my criminal complaint? 73312 Michael Houlihan, the Monmouth County Sheriff's Office, lied under oath during grand jury proceeding convened by former District Attorney Sandra Dolan, former Director of the Grand Jury, Michelle Crowley. I was not called to testify before the grand jury. How am I indicted by a grand jury that targets me when I'm not a witness before that grand jury? Attached to Freedom of Information Law document this language, quote, information about the grand jury convened by former District Attorney Sandra Dorley to target Christopher Chichester, that is, quote, the month, day, and year the grand jury is convened, quote, 2, the assigned the month, day, and year the grand jury is convened. 2, the assigned district attorney's office employed to address the grand jury. 3, the witnesses that testified to the grand jury. 4, the vote of the grand jurors. 5, the transcript of the grand jury proceeding, end quote. Mailing information I demand via the Freedom of Information Law to the address below my name, District Attorney Brian P. Green. What's not to understand? And the second page here. I've been an innocent man for my entire life. Christopher Chichester, 130 North Winton Road, Box 10184, Rochester, 14610. Copy 2, Michael G. Giacomo, United States Attorney for the Western District of Dallas, Renzi, New York State Supreme Court, Todd Blanche, Attorney General, Julie Siaga, Public Defender. 15 attachments. 1, criminal complaint for perjury, 73312 Michael Houlihan. 1, criminal complaint for Richard J. Seaman, Monmouth County Sheriff's Office. Criminal complaint for Nayraj Shaolin, Kumar Shop, Penfield, New York. Criminal complaint for Laura Riley, Webster, New York. Criminal complaint for Antonio Spano, Fairport, New York. May 11, 2026, correspondence, Sheriff Todd Baxter, District Attorney Brian P. Green. April 6, 2026, correspondence, Perry Douglas and Mark Monahan, the Monmouth County District Attorney's Office. April 6, 2023, correspondence, Sheriff Todd Baxter and District Attorney Sandra Dorley. April 10, 2025, correspondence, Sheriff Todd Baxter, District Attorney Sandra Dorley. July 28, 2025, correspondence, District Attorney Sandra Dorley. July 28, 2024, correspondence, District Attorney Sandra Dorley. July 10, 2024, correspondence, District Attorney Sandra Dorley. June 27, 2024, correspondence, District Attorney Sandra Dorley. January 16, 2023, correspondence, Sheriff Todd Baxter. January 1, 23, correspondence, Perry Douglas, Monmouth County District Attorney's Office. On that January 1, Perry Douglas also contacted you on January 1, 2024 and January 2025. I'm telling you to do a simple thing. Tell me who it is. And when you continue to refuse, I'm going to continue to come here and demand that information and tell you a simple thing, that you're corrupt. You're all corrupt because you're consumed with power, control over lives of people. Here's the foil dated this, July 27, 2026. These are all the attachments that I just read from May 11th. I sent this document to you again. So on here, I'm going to be back on here, I hope, on July 28th, 2026, which is tomorrow. 1 year ago, on July 28th, 2025, I wrote, July 28th, 2025, as I point to you with the official finger of Brooklyn, New York, District Attorney's Office, Sheriff's Office. Sandra Dorley, District Attorney, 47 South Fitzhugh Street, Rochester, New York, 14614. 1 year ago, on July 28, 2024, I wrote to you, quote, 1 year ago today, I described the sick, lawless behavior, perjury, 73312 Michael Houlihan, the Monmouth County Sheriff's Office, YouTube. You ignored my language, attached criminal complaint. Why? Is perjury a crime you refuse to prosecute? Resign freak, end quote. I was indicted by a grand jury convened by Director of Grand Jury Michelle Crowley because 73312 Michael Houlihan lied under oath to your grand jurors when he stated swung a hammer at him on my back porch 26 minutes from driving Penfield, New York at midnight. He was hiding on my neighbor's private property with $85,000 Don Benedetto. It's impossible to swing a hammer at this idiot when 1, I ran the entire 30 seconds. 2, my forward motion carried me rapidly toward the back porch screen door. 3, swinging a hammer requires me to stop running, and if that happened, Houlihan would have collided with me. Did you watch the body camera fix the Houlihan played for me by Assistant Public Defender Christina Harper? Why didn't you call me to a grand jury to testify? Is it your standard practice as district attorney to not call a target of the grand jury to testify? Is there a transcript of the grand jury farce where I can read the testimony of Houlihan? What was the vote of the grand jurors? Is it unanimous or majority vote required under New York State law to return an indictment by a grand jury? Did the grand jurors ask questions? How did you select each grand juror? I'll write a Freedom of Information Law, again, using the same language you received from me 2+ years ago, every single time you as district attorney, my attorney refused to respond to the information for how you empowered this grand jury to violate my civil and constitutional rights. Resign, freak. So that's January 28, 2025. Real simple. Before she resigned in disgrace, which is where she belongs. She will be a resignation in disgrace for the rest of her miserable, sick, twisted life. District Attorney Sandra Dorley. Where she'll never once think she violated someone's civil and constitutional rights. Where she'll never have any guilt about her disgusting behavior with the Webster New York police when she's refusing to stop her vehicle. She's flashing her badge and trying to use the power of her office to intimidate both of them to make it go away. I'm shocked the police officers had integrity and just didn't let her go. So, July 28, 2024, again, District Attorney Sandra Dorley. You understand here the dates? Today's July 27th, 2026. I just read to you 1 year ago, July 28, 2025, July 28, 2024. 1 year ago today, I described as sick laws, behavior, perjurer, 73312 Michael Houlihan, the Miami County Sheriff's Office, YouTube. You ignore my language, you attach criminal complaint, wise, perjury, crime, refuse to prosecute, resign, freak. So, there are more here. July 26, 24, I'm using the Freedom of Information Law. July 10, 2024, I've read this repeatedly. This is a transcript of every argument made by prosecutors to detail and describe a crime I committed. There are brackets with no language because prosecutors never talked. June 27th, Sandra Dorley, the prosecutor silenced the camera here. I'm not going to talk about that now. I'll be on here for at least 30 minutes talking about this camera. This is not the full color photograph, but it's right there. I've been on there repeatedly. And when I say that I contacted Perry Duckles, he's blowing me off and ignoring me. It's January 1, 2023. I don't have January 1, 24 or January 1, 2025 for him. So, it's not to understand, Michelle Crowley. Send it to me. Right here. I'm going to read this again for you, Michelle Crowley. Michelle Crowley, have you ever read The Elements of Style by E.B. White and William Strunk Jr.? This is a famous book about the simplicity of the English language. So I'm going to read to you again, Michelle Crowley, the simplicity of the English language, which you will ignore, ain't good. Because there are disciplinary committees for you, which I have not thought about yet or really decided to contact, but I will. When I say decided to contact, I don't know the date, but you're going to be number one on my list, Michelle Crowley, as far as these disciplinary committees. Because if you're called to one, all these questions I demand of you answering, you can't ignore a disciplinary committee, especially when I send one 1,000 pages about you, Michelle Crowley, where I'm your ham sandwich. You understand, you fucking psychopath? Again here, my language, Michelle Crowley, answer me. Information about the grand jury convened by former District Attorney Sandra Dorley, Todd, Christopher Chichester, that is, the day, month, and year the grand jury is convened, signed District Attorney's Office employee to address the grand jury, 3 witnesses testified to grand jurors, 4 devoted grand jurors, 5 transcript of grand jury proceeding. I'm sorry if I hurt your little precious fucking feelings by using profanity, Michelle Crowley. So, right there, that foil I read, I'm not going to read this again because I already did. Over and over. That foil has been in these green cards here. Not every green card is the District Attorney's Office here, but at least 25 of them are. Over and over, that foil has arrived. And former District Attorney Sandra Dorley and present District Attorney Brian P. Green ignore the law because the law is a joke. The present District Attorney Brian P. Green and former District Attorney Sandra Dorley. So, and when I say I've talked repeatedly about Michael Houlihan, here he is right here. January 26, 2023. This is more than 3 years ago. I'm on here for more than 30 minutes. Perjury 73312 Michael Houlihan. This has arrived over and over and over. 100 plus times. It could be 200 plus times. By United States Postal Service, registered mail return receipt, Federal Express, UPS, and then when I'm on Gmail. Perjurer. I'm saying he's a perjurer. It does not matter to Sheriff Todd Baxter that Michael Houlihan lied under oath at all. Because the blue wall of silence descends from Sheriff Todd Baxter on to Michael Houlihan, which has been in existence for 50 plus years since at least Frank Serpico at NYPD in New York City. My Uncle Todd was in the same graduating class in 1962 as Frank Serpico. And he hated Frank Serpico. Because he was a police officer for 27 years. They all hated him. And they didn't even really know why. You don't know why. I come on here and I have this degree of anger at the sheriff's office and district attorney's office. Now, one of you know. Because before I'm 50, I got a speeding ticket where I worked in Albany, New York, speeding ticket where I worked in Washington, D.C., both dismissed in court. After I'm 50, I'm in jail 6 times with his total silence by a prosecutor, and then these psychopath freak cops under Sheriff Todd Baxter. That's all they are cops. Such as Andrew Reale, Shannon Meyer, Michael Houlihan, Don Benedetto, Richard Seidman. They're concocting crimes to me, and he ignores it. It doesn't matter to him. It does not matter to Sheriff Todd Baxter that his employees can't identify a criminal act and then concoct crimes for an innocent citizen, which is me. It does not matter at all to him. Because he's a corrupt, freaking psychopath. That's why. Quote, I have a passion for jails, end quote. Do you remember that quote? It was in the Democrat Chronicle. I have a passion for jails. That is the lunatic French to say that, to use that language. Because what he's confessing, while he does not know it, is he loves suffering. Because there are innocent citizens in jail. And if he's ever asked, are there innocent citizens in jail? You know what's going to be from Todd Baxter? It's going to be that idiot rambling where he talks and talks and talks and he never answers a question. Right there, Perjury, Michael Houlihan. January 26, 2023. It didn't matter, Sam Story. It didn't matter, Todd Baxter. Again here, January 24th, Perjury, Michael Houlihan. When I write this, write a document and come to YouTube, the next day I send it. January 26th, the next day it arrived. January 24th, the next day it arrived. And then January 22nd, 2023, it's the first time I was on YouTube with Michael Houlihan. So on January 22nd, 2023, January 24th, 2023, January 26th, 2023, those 3 dates, Perjury Michael Houlihan arrived. And it doesn't matter to Todd Baxter. And if he even looked at this language and saw Perjury, he should at least watch me because for his own self-protection. He's such an idiot and freaking psychopath. He does not know that lying cops, and cops that in particular lying under oath, it's one thing to be a lying cop, just at the sheriff's office or out on the streets. It's a completely different thing to be lying under oath, which I'm confident Michael Houlihan's both. But the only one that really matters is lying under oath. He does not have any type of interest, curiosity, concern at all about Michael Houlihan lying under oath, which means any Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee can lie under oath. Employees of the Sheriff's Office and District Attorney's Office. My ex-girlfriend here, I'm going on and on here about being evicted by the internal spinal Fairport, North Dakota Police, written about her. It's one of the hardest things I ever had to do is write this about Laura Riley, who I've known since I was 20 years old in 1986. That's how long we have known each other and lived at 3 residences. And when I'm taking pen to paper to write this down, I thought I was going to totally lose it about writing this criminal complaint because leading up to this point, she refused 40, 50, 60 times, email, phone calls. Tell me what happened, Laura, with this legal eviction. Why'd you bring all my stuff to this storage locker in Webster, New York? And I'm sitting there with this pen, ready to write this criminal complaint that you've received over and over. This is probably the most difficult thing I'd have to do in my life. And this is what Todd Baxter's doing to me. So, the date I'm talking about is July 28, 2023. Perjury on Sheriff Todd Baxter, District Attorney General, and Judge Alex Renzi. This was done at 8:40 p.m. on July 28, 2020. 3 years ago, he's still on the job. I have absolutely no doubt that this freaking psychopath is on the job. And then when I eventually get the payroll, he's going to have a pay raise. And in this language that I'm using here, when I say 73312 Michael Houlihan is still on the job, he has a pay raise. I'm going to come back on YouTube when I get the new payroll, quote myself, and then I'm going to quote his new salary. Because it doesn't matter to Todd Baxter that Michael Houlihan's a lying freak perjurer. The foundation of any courtroom is the truth. Now, when Michael Houlihan's in a courtroom, there is no such thing as the truth. He'll lie under oath again. Involved in a serious incident that the Attorney General of the State of New York had to investigate. And then he's on private property. Again, how many times do I have to ask you freaks and psychopaths? Because it's been 50 times on YouTube. Can the police anywhere in the United States of America, like 73312 Michael Houlihan and $85,000 Don Benedetto, walk onto private property? Perry Douglas, if you woke up, I guess you're a homeowner. You've been in the district attorney's office for more than 20 years. It's a success. You're obviously a success. Been there that long, making six figures. What would you think if the cops were on your private property and you came outside, wherever you live, hypothetically, if you live in Fairport and there were the Fairport police in your backyard and you came out and said, what the hell are you doing on my property? And they said to you, well, we're surveilling someone. That definitely happens. You know why? Because it was happening right across the street from me with Michael Houlihan and Don Benedetto. I try not to laugh. I used to laugh on here. There's nothing. My whole temperament about what I think is funny in life in general has changed. There's so few things are really truly funny anymore, given what has happened to me. So who is it? Tell me who it is, and you're going to continue to refuse. Here it is right here. The language I read. I'm swearing that he did this. I don't just put this down on a piece of paper. Christopher Price is a notary at the Monroe branch of the Rochester Public Library on Monroe Avenue. I've been there over and over. See Christopher, who's a terrific public employee, a dedicated professional at the Monroe branch of the Rochester Public Library. He's giving me advice about what I should do with these criminal complaints. I'll be going there and see him again. Here's the notary right here. Here's Christopher. Here's Christopher's signature, the notary public. Here's my signature. I'm saying Michael Houlihan lied under oath. Right here. There's the language. And then I wrote it out because Christopher told me to write it out. And here it is here. I typed it. That's my handwriting right here. Saying Michael Houlihan lied under oath. It's a perjurer freak. Doesn't matter, Todd Baxter. Michael Houlihan lied under oath. Here's the rest of it here. I'm going to write this again and using different language. And I'm going to write language will probably be twice as long as this. So when you receive my documentation, it's right there. This card is attached. Christopher Childs is an innocent man. It's guilty, not guilty. I'm neither. I'm innocent. I'm always innocent. I've been innocent my whole life. Which doesn't matter. How you live your life, does that matter? Does being a veteran matter? Does your employment matter? Does your charitable acts matter? Does any of that matter? And the answer is no. The Paul C. Metzler, John P. Lemez Jr. in Pennsylvania Court, and Alex Renzi in New York State Supreme Court. Doesn't matter at all to these corrupt judges. Is Paul C. Metzler a corrupt judge? Perry Douglas. Is Paul C. Metzler a corrupt judge? Michelle Crowley. Is Paul C. Metzler a corrupt judge? Michael Harrigan. Is John P. Lomenzo a corrupt judge? Perry Douglas, Michelle Crowley, Michael Harrigan. Is Alex Renzi a corrupt judge? Perry Douglas, Michelle Crowley, Michael Harrigan. Is your answer no? The prosecutors never talked in court. All three of these judges delivered me to jail 6 times. Monroe County Jail, Rochester, New York, Livingston County Jail, Geneseo, New York. It doesn't matter to the prosecutor, to the corrupt judge, Alex Renzi in New York State Supreme Court, Paul C. Metzler, Penn Court, John P. Lomenzo Jr. in Penn Court. That the prosecutors had failed to make an argument and failed to appear does not matter, which is the essence definition of corruption. What's the problem with Jonestown? The problem with Jonestown is you devoured the Kool-Aid. So, I'm not going to read these criminal complaints again because I could throw up. So, tell me who it is, and you will continue to refuse to tell me who it is. And why is that? Because everything is gone. Every single thing I own is gone, including my original DD-214. I'm not going to read this again. So, but I told Todd Baxter, who is a veteran, that my DD-214 is gone. I'm not going to go into details about this again. Because everything is gone. All my books are gone. All my running medals are gone. When I run a race in Monroe County, which I started running again in 2015, I always medal. Either in the race, the top 15 of the race itself, 500, 600 runners, I'll be in the top 20, and I'll medal in my age group, which was 40 to 49, 50 to 59. I've held up some of those medals. Maybe I'll do that again. I'll get a blown-up picture. I don't have it. I ran the Penfield Education 5K. I think I was 19th or 20th overall, and I have a medal there. I was third place in my age group, 50 to 59. That's all gone. So, all my medals are gone. Everything is gone. Everything is gone because 3 corrupt judges and psychopath prosecutors, the names of which I don't know. So, June 24th, 2025, Todd Baxter, Brian P. Green, that Freedom of Information law I just read about the grand jury, director of the grand jury, Michelle Crowley, Perry Duckles, District Attorney Brian P. Green. It's the first one here on June 24th. So this is a month ago. Refusing to apply. There's all 17 in here, including Todd Baxter owes me money. It's ridiculous that sign. You know why he owes me money? Because the issuance of a new check to Christopher charges the address below for an expired check in the amount of $61.39 from County Monroe Office of Sheriff may fund the account, but that's the dollar amount pocket charge system which violates Act, Penn Public Library 75904, which you see in the Sheriff's Office. When I get the payroll, the new payroll for Todd Baxter, I'm demanding overtime time and a half from him too. Richard Seaton will still be employed, and this salary here, $75,904, it's going to be increased to $85,000, $90,000. And then I'm going to come back on here. I'm going to quote myself saying, I told you when this was going to happen when I got the new payroll. How much you paid in overtime? Perry Duckles, I believe it's $113,000. Am I correct? Well, if you work a 50-hour week, what do you pay? If you work a 60-hour week, what do you pay? Because you're doing murder trials. You're doing other trials with serious crimes. It's not a standard 40-hour week. You make overtime, a time and a half, however that's done. So what is it? Were you paid more money than the $200,000 or thereabouts, $210,000 of Sandra Dorley with overtime time and a half? Because Todd Baxter doesn't require overtime and time and a half to pay his employees more than him, such as Michael Fowler and Corey Brown. Todd Baxter, the last time I checked, paid $131,000. Michael Fowler's paid $163,000. Corey Brown's paid $155,000. Corey Brown is paid by Todd Baxter $24,000 more than him. Michael Fowler is paid $32,000 more than him. Is that not corruption? Employees at the district attorney's office? For a duly elected sheriff to pay 2 employees $20,000+ more than him? He makes that decision? He's buying their loyalty. That's why. He's buying them off. Or, as ridiculous and ludicrous as it sounds, before I say something that can sound ridiculous and ludicrous, I'll say it. What do they know about the sheriff? Because there's got to be something, or perhaps it's just he wants to pay them that money and that's it. I'm not some lunatic French conspiracy theorist, but I would not be surprised if Todd Baxter wants to keep Corey Brown happy at 155 and Michael Fowler happy at 163, making that much more money than him because they know everything about the sheriff's office, including the sheriff's own behavior. Like, for example, does the sheriff like to drink on the job? Does the sheriff like to go to see exotic dancing at certain places? Is the sheriff having sex with a female Monroe County Sheriff Office employee? I don't know. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm giving those examples as hypothetical examples of what possibly Corey Brown and Michael Fowler can know about Sheriff Todd Baxter. And I don't know anything. I have no idea how to read the mind of Corey Fowler and Michael Brown. I have no idea what they know about Sheriff Todd Baxter. That is just a thought. I would not be surprised if all that's true at all. That they know information about him and he pays them that amount of money to keep them quiet. Would you disagree with that at the district attorney's office? Perry Duckles? Would you disagree with that? Michelle Crowley, Megan Hauser, the local courts bureau, if I got that right, would you disagree? Michael Harrigan, would you disagree? Because that's definitely a possibility. I'm not saying it is a fact. I'm saying it's a possibility. So, copy of the private health care records delivered to $28,000 Paul C. Messer by Sheriff Todd Baxter, Monroe County, in violation of Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996. My former employee in the United States Congress passed this law to properly protect health care records. So the first time I got out of Monroe County Jail, I didn't go home. And then when I eventually went home, I told my mother and father what happened to me and where I was. And my mother cried on the phone. When I told my mother where I went and what happened to me after Monroe County Jail, the stop in between for 3 weeks, she cried on the phone. So when I'm angry on here, and I'm definitely angry right now, it's because I'm motivated thinking about all these things that have happened to me, which have destroyed my life. And when my mother's crying on the phone or I'm telling her what happened to me, that's a driving force reason why I'm motivated all the time and for the last 4 or 5 years, demanding information. So here it is right here, what I just read. That's one foil. I just wrote one. Keep it real simple. Same foil here on June 24, 2026. I go down to North Winton Road. I check my box. There's nothing in there. There's no communication whatsoever. It's the law's a joke to District Attorney Brian P. Green. The law's a joke to Michelle Crowley. It doesn't even occur to Michelle Crowley, I should comply with this freedom of information law for the citizen because I have that information, because she does. Doesn't matter at all. So I'm going to get off here now. 30 minutes, 10:30 p.m. I think it is. Yes, it is. So, January 2023, Perjury 73312 Michael Houlihan, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Todd Baxter. My name is Christopher Chichester. I live in Rochester, New York. Your employee, 73312 Michael C. Houlihan, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, lied in a grand jury under oath convened by former District Attorney Sandra Dorley and present employee of the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. And the fact that your employee, Michael Houlihan, lied under oath is irrelevant to you, Sheriff Todd Baxter, because every inch of your sick, twisted existence is corrupt.